Hello and warm welcome to everyone to our eighth webinar on emotional immunity, a highly relevant subject in today's times. Speaking of today's times, most of us are so over the subject of COVID and generally listening to the words uncertainty and challenging times. So let's cut all that out and focus on how we will feel at the end of our session, optimistic and hopeful. Before we start, for all of our participants, just to tell you about Teja in a few words. Teja was born about 4 months ago with the purpose of adding value to people's lives through positive thinking, meditation, and practical tips on well-being. Kalyani and Jayanti, who are the founders of Teja, strongly believe in the potential of one's mind and are passionate about each one finding their inner radiance. Before we begin, there's our usual housekeeping. Kindly keep your profile on mute, and if you want to say something, use the chat window so we can make the session very interactive. And for some reason, if there's any technical difficulty or the call drops out, please use the same link that we provided you to come back in. Importantly, for this time, we are going to collect some feedback from you. So it'll be great if you could kindly share your email ID in the chat window so we can get you to we can email you the feedback form. And I also encourage you to stay till the end as we have some treats for you. Now I'll hand you over to Kalyani.
Thank you, Sachin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Teja's 8th session. I'm really delighted to have all of you here today. And thank you for joining us to the new participants as well. As Sachin said, we are passionate about harnessing the potential of our own mind and coming up with interesting and relevant subjects for discussing this. So today's subject is emotional immunity. What exactly is emotional immunity? When I researched this subject, I found that it is complex. It has several layers to it. But I thought I can tell you a really simple short story to just highlight what emotional immunity is. The credit to this story goes to a really impressive speaker called Shri Kumar Rao. So the story goes like this. Imagine that you are a civil engineer and you've been commissioned by your local government or local authority to build a road from point A, city A to city B. So here you are with this project and you open the blueprint to look at what the terrain looks like from point A to point B. And you find out that this terrain has got a rocky patch, rough rocky patch, a forest, and a river. So what do you do next? You try to use your skills, your experience, and research to understand how do we navigate this different terrain. If the rocky part is too hard and too difficult to bore a tunnel through, you try to use some creative ideas to cross this rocky terrain. And when there's a forest, you try to understand how do I build this road through the forest by doing the least damage to our environment, by cutting the least amount of trees maybe. And when you're navigating across the river, you try to use your creativity to build the best tensile bridge you could ever build. And if you think that the project is too complex, you probably increase your fees. But would you be complaining about, oh, why is there a forest and why is there this rocky patch? Such is life. Life throws curveballs and challenges at you. But most of the time, we do not have the perspective of the civil engineer, but we spend far too much time complaining and being in victim mentality and trying to all the time analyze, why is it me that has to face this? Why is this rocky road in my life? Why is it that this river is so difficult to navigate? Instead, if we used our skills and experience and used the potential of our mind to create this route, create the most fulfilling journey, then imagine what life would be. And for each of this difficult terrain that you cross, you bounce back or even bounce better than what you were before. That to me underlines emotional immunity. And today I'm really, really delighted that we're going to hear from industry experts who are going to tell us more about emotional immunity from a very technical and a more psychologically scientific perspective, if you like. And they'll give you some really practical tips that are not that difficult, honestly. So I'm going to now invite Jayanti to introduce us to our amazing guest speakers for today. Jayanti.
Thanks, Kalyani. That was a great analogy, I thought. And we're all civil engineers of our own life, ultimately, aren't we? So I'm really excited to learn a lot and to be the best civil engineer possible from today onwards. So we're so excited to collaborate with Trijog, which is a mental health organization in India. Just to give you an idea about how massive Trijog is, they have touched 5 million lives. And of course, they have transformed the mental health of so many people across India. And with this impressive profile, I'm really happy to introduce Anurit Sethi, who is the founder and chairperson of Trijog. And she has worked across different sectors such as healthcare, the education sector, the corporate sector, and she has over 35 years of experience. So she's going to add a lot of value to our lives today. Along with her is Isha Pahuja. Isha is a senior psychologist and she's the center head at Trijog. And she's had over 10 years of experience in this field. So we're really excited to learn a lot about becoming more resilient in handling our emotions with Anurit and Isha. So welcome to both of you. First of all, I would like to raise this question about emotional immunity and why is it so important?
Thank you so much, Kalyani and Jayanti, for having me on the Teja platform. I know you are wonderful people doing excellent work and an excellent job, just the way we are trying to work through mental health, like you just introduced me. Though I have been a mental health professional dealing with all kind of difficulties, emotional, mental, social. But recently, we have started propagating a lot of mental wellness because we're seeing that mind sanity is getting very badly affected because of the imbalance which has been created by the stress levels that we are facing. And today, besides focusing on our physical immunity, which is one of the prime things that the pandemic is promoting us to do, wearing masks, going out and sanitizing, keeping social distancing. A lot is being talked in media about how you can keep your physical immunity high. But as psychologists and mental health professionals, we feel that the emotional immunity has to also be absolutely high enough to a level that you can cope with the present adversity that is happening all around us. So we need to strike a balance between physical immunity and emotional immunity. All of us very well understand what physical immunity is, and very well said even by Kalyani about when we come to coping with emotional immunity, we can always learn to come over our obstacles and find better opportunities in times which are challenging like today. Did anybody know that when we are so progressive, we will get so bogged down by a pandemic? Not at all. We thought we could conquer the world. We've reached every possible place in the space. But all of us today are so scared of a virus. I have clients coming in and out, day in and out, only talking about fears and anxieties related to either contracting the virus or dealing with their work life. They are unable to cope with the financial crisis which has come up, with the kind of change in life, working from home, not meeting people. So actually, emotional immunity works at building our positivity towards an approach towards the environment, understanding our emotions and managing them better, getting in certain values like emotional resilience, self-care, self-compassion, and putting all of these things together to make sure that we are in a position to actually manage this adversity. So together we really need to work towards raising our adversity quotient. Life is going to be tough. So today I want to really talk a lot and interact with you. Let it be a discussion-based, interactive kind of a webinar where I can actually give you a lot of tips, strategies, how you need to deal with life at this time. And once we can do it, then nothing is difficult. This phase will pass by and we all will be victorious. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing that we've planned for today. Like I just said, in wanting to build our emotional immunity, it's extremely important to understand our emotions. You know, very often we humans feel very weak when we talk about our emotions. What are you feeling? We don't even ask our children that. We talk about daily lives, we may talk about what's happening in school. In friends also, we discuss a lot of fun things, but nobody talks about emotions. How are you feeling? We do talk about the happy emotions, but not the negative ones. At this time, a lot of upsurge of negative emotions is happening, which is causing a very strong emotional pollution. And actually, emotional pollution feeds on negativity. The moment we become more negative, we become emotionally more, the environment becomes more polluted. So we have to take the onus that we discard everything from our lives, which is actually leading to us becoming less resilient and less motivated. So even if you're feeling sad, depressed, angry, irritated, there is a reason behind it. We all are locked down. We're in a lockdown pandemic and it's going to happen. So what is the best way to actually deal with it? We need to change our attitude. We need to change our perspective. We need to take on doing those things which are going to help us manage the balance so that we continue to maintain bouncing back to normalcy every time we see that we are low. So, one of the most important components of emotional immunity is self-care. At this time, when we are juggling between our work life, our home life, making our financial ends meet, nobody really knew that so many industries are closing down because they do not have the financial support that they can provide to their employees. We are having no help coming in right now, the little help that we used to get. Everybody is in dilemma. But until we take care of ourselves, how will we support our family? How will we do anything for our children, our parents, and our spouses, and also our friends? Okay? So, most important thing is you will have to deliberately, consciously take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself does not just mean looking after your physical health. Self-care is important, and I'll tell you what is self-care about. Remember, this is a beautiful quote which says, you can't pour from an empty cup. So until your cups are always filled up, how are you going to fill up others' cups? So make sure that you are happy, satisfied, content, and relaxed. Situations are going to get from bad to worse and then back to normal. But until you're going to deal with it in a cool manner and just let go of certain things, things won't improve. So we'll need to wait and act. I'm not just saying sit back and just say, oh, I'm taking good care of myself. Times will change. You'll have to be actively involved. Okay? So let's see, what is it about self-care that we need to do?
So, ma'am, could you tell us why is self-care important and what are some ways in which we can practice self-care?
Sure. So see, actually, self-care is of different kinds. There is, like I just said, physical self-care, where you actually take care of your dresses, the way you look. You go to parlors, get your things done. Women are really known for that they do spend enough time to pamper themselves over their physical care, right? But there is something called emotional care, self-care. There is something called spiritual care. And there is also something very important, social self-care. At this time, we are unable to meet our friends and family. They were so important in our lives and they were our stress busters. So how can we increase on our social connectedness is something important. You need to definitely take out time talking regularly to people you care for. Connect with people you may not have connected for a very long time. Start making social connectedness. Today we are so lucky that we have the media, social media connect, the virtual platform for us, which in the last pandemic wasn't there, I think. So make use of this kind of a thing. The next thing is emotional well-being. Make sure that you keep going on doing certain things which you're passionate about. Do things which give you pleasure. This is the best chance to do it. You know, we always trip that I have no time. I'm only juggling between home and work. Today you are home. You can spend more time with your family. You can spend time with your children. You can spend time with your spouses. Do that. And spiritually, lots to do. At this time, I've done a lot for myself. I never used to get the time to do so much of chanting, though I propagated a lot of meditation, breath work to the world around. But I wanted to practice it myself and I got the time. So the moment I prioritized that, I started doing chanting, meditation, journaling, writing out certain things which give me pleasure, doing certain activities like music, dance, which probably I wouldn't do earlier, right? So that is spiritual care. So it's a combination of all. And why do we need to take self-care? Is obviously, like I just told you, to maintain our mental balance, to maintain our sanity and emotional well-being, which is very, very important. Ensure that you get the best you out of yourself, the best possible you. I don't want you to create an image which is not you. Be the true you and you will be happy. Reinvigorate yourself. Each time, renew up yourself. Each time you see yourself falling, get on to doing things which actually give you a lot of pleasure. You know, I sometimes feel very, very pleasurable just walking around. So now that we cannot go down because in Mumbai the situation is not very great, I walk it in the house only. I've got my cycle out, my stationary cycle, got the skipping rope, so that it just helps me to keep happy. Because exercise is a very important way to do that. Reduce the level of stress at work and home. And the way we can do it is get organized. Have a different routine during your weekdays and your weekends. Make sure that on weekdays you do follow structured, organized routine so that you don't feel stressed about working from home. And give weekends as a me time. Enjoy the me time. Give your children me time. You take me time so that you get totally relaxed. Also, just like Kalyani shared, treat your problems as opportunities. Don't think they are obstacles. Life is always a lesson we learn for. For times immemorial, we have heard that our failures teach us lessons. And when we go through them and when we go to success, we always remember that it's the failure which taught me to become more successful. So from our problems, we learn the solutions. So there's a beautiful thing I want to tell you. When a lot of people come to me for help, they tell them lots and lots and lots and lots of problems. So I ask them a simple question that, do you want to be just the problem or do you want to be the solution? Because only when you are the solution can you sort your problem. I cannot sort problems. I'm no magician with a magic wand. Finally, you will have to do the job. So have the confidence. We as therapists also give the confidence. Read up a lot more. Spend time, understand, discover yourself so that you know that you have the power to change life. Get in so much of energy that you can not only lead your life well, but are responsible for other significant people in your life. I have a lot of people who spend loads of time on others and then they say, oh my God, why did I do that? I didn't get anything in return. So I often say, do things which are in your reach. If you can't, say a no. Learn to say no when you have to. That will improve your own self-care. Okay? I think there is a particular question. Do you want me to answer that or move on right now?
I think you can answer the question. I thought it's quite relevant because we are all reaching, a lot of people are getting into very depressed state of mind where things that made us happy in the past don't work anymore, for example. What do we do in such a time?
So like I just told you all need to understand this particular model, which even CBT and REBT therapies follow, which is called the ABC model. A is the adverse situation and C is the consequences, that is our behavior. So our behavior right now is becoming really irritated and really depressed. So what is leading to this kind of behavior? It is our thought processes. So the moment we start feeling very depressed, I always do so because I think about certain things which bog me down. So the moment we alter our thought processes, we start feeling better. Okay, so for example, I'll give you an example that suppose I feel that I am absolutely stuck at home and I'm very unhappy because I can't move out, and I tell myself, oh my God, I'm absolutely tied up at home and I don't know when this will all get over, when will all this nonsense get over. Rather than saying that as a self-talk to yourself, you have to say, yes, the times are bad and it's going to be bad for a while. So therefore, let me treat it as something challenging and cope with it. It's not going to be easy. And we don't know how long this uncertainty of opening up and things getting normal and whether we will ever get back to the normal which was ever there in the last year. 2020 has been a totally different year, and now on only change is going to happen. So if we accept that, obviously we will get less depressed. So it's the thoughts which make us depressed. Try to journal out, write down what are the thoughts which are disturbing you. Pinpoint on those thoughts and get alternative thinking to that. Isha, would you like to add on an example too? As you see so many cases in depression.
Yes, ma'am. So, like ma'am rightly said, our thoughts are connected. I mean, our emotions are connected to the way we perceive things, right? So, let's say that painting was something earlier caused me to feel pleasure, right? And now to start getting on painting right now, I feel that I feel depressed and I do not want to do it. So my self-talk is something around, you know what, everything is so monotonous and what's the sense of doing this right now? It's not going to give me any pleasure anyway, since everything is so routine and monotonous. Now, when we shift this is a way in which I can try to build on self-care slowly and gradually, one step at a time. You will see that your mood changes from feeling depressed to more motivated to do something. So rather than the self-talk being, I can't do this, or I don't see the point in doing this, because ultimately there is a point, right? It's just that you're not seeing the benefit of it right now. If you actively keep that as your goal, see the benefit of what you're doing and change your self-talk accordingly, that shift in your mindset will lead you to feel a healthier emotion and therefore more pushing towards action rather than just being stuck in inaction, and then, you know, elevating your feelings of depressed mood.
Thanks a lot. That was great. I think it was very relevant. And I also like the ABC thing that you said about adversity, behavior, and consequence. I thought that was really good, something that I did not know about before. So thank you for sharing that. I think we've got some more questions, but maybe we can move on and then we can answer those questions in the Q&A.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, as we see that on one side is self-care, but on the other side of the continuum is self-criticism. When we self-criticize, we're actually not being self-compassionate. And self-care really does need that you be compassionate towards yourself. So, if we self-criticize ourselves, we're getting bogged down. And that will definitely reduce our emotional immunity. So we're going to do just a short activity with you, which Isha will take you through on understanding how does self-criticism make us feel? And then how is it that we can overcome that self-criticism to rise above and move on?
So I will be reading out certain situations and then a resulting statement in accordance to that. I want you to try and pick from the options when you say that statement to yourself, how is it that you're going to feel? I request you all to put your answers on the chat box. So you goof up in a presentation at work and your self-talk is, I can't believe how stupid I am. How would this self-talk make you feel? Anxious, depressed, motivated, neutral. So there's no right or wrong answer in this. Please answer as to what you resonate most with. So most people I see are writing anxious, depressed, 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 depressed. Okay. Anxious. Okay. You get a job in one of the top 5 companies of your country, and your self-talk is, oh, anyone could do that. That's not so hard. How does this self-talk make you feel? Excited, non-achieving, neutral, depressed. Excited, non-achieving, neutral, non-achieving, 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 neutral, non-achieving, excited, non-achieving, non-achieving. The maximum people are saying non-achieving. Excited, non-achieving. Okay. You make a mistake on an important project and your self-talk is, let me focus on where I went wrong and be mindful of it. Be mindful of it the next time. How would this self-talk make you feel? Depressed, neutral, frustrated, soothed, and hopeful. Soothed and hopeful, soothed and hopeful, 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 soothed, soothed and hopeful. Okay, everybody's, almost all of you are writing soothed and hopeful. Hopeful. You and your partner have been having repeated arguments over the same issue, and your self-talk is, I can't do anything right. How does this self-talk make you feel? depressed, motivated to sort the argument, self-doubt, or neutral. Depressed, depressed, self-doubt. Happiness lies in remembering you're not 99. Self-doubt, self-doubt, depressed, self-doubt. So again, majority of the population is saying they're going to feel either self-doubt or depressed.
Yes.
Neutral, neutral, self-doubt, self-doubt. Okay. You yell at your child for spilling water all over the floor. Your self-talk is, I could have responded rather than reacted in this situation. Next time, I take deep breaths when I feel my anger rising. How does this self-talk make you feel? Sad but hopeful, angry, neutral, guilty. Sad but hopeful, sad but hopeful, sad but hopeful, guilty, sad but hopeful, sad but hopeful, hopeful, guilty, sad but hopeful, guilty, sad but hopeful. So again, majority people sad but hopeful. So if we were to look at all of these statements, the first statement is extremely self-critical, which you saw everybody, almost everybody led to feeling anxious and depressed in this situation. Whereas what we're looking for is to feel some sort of a motivation in order for us to not repeat this sort of goof up that happened in future situations. In the second situation, although you're not actively criticizing yourself, it's still somewhere where you're disqualifying the positive that you've accomplished. That's why possibly most of you have ended up writing non-achieving in this situation. The third self-talk is a more rational self-talk. It's neither extremely positive nor is it extremely negative. This is like a realistic self-talk that we've sort of utilized here, and which is why most people felt soothed and hopeful. The fourth statement again is an extremely critical statement which led to people, majority people feeling depressed, self-doubt, some people feeling neutral. The fifth one is again a more realistic, rational statement, which led to people feeling sad but hopeful, but of course some amount of guilt as well, because when a negative situation does happen in our life, it may not be possible for us to feel positive towards it. But although we're feeling a negative emotion, it's a healthy negative emotion where we process that, yet are hopeful to be able to change our actions next time onwards.
Thank you so much, Isha, for this activity. I just want to interject quickly and say something because we
Yes.
have spoken about this on our Teja webinars in the past, Kalyani. It's the cancel technique. I'm sure you were also reminded of it. So I'll quickly remind everyone of it in case if there were people who were on the Teja webinar before. We've spoken about the cancel technique, which is a really simple silver method technique. Whenever we do something, whenever we have this critical self-talk towards ourselves and we're criticizing ourselves, we often repeat it with, we often say cancel after that. For example, I may say that I'm really bad at remembering names. And then I'll say cancel. I won't say I'm getting amazing at remembering names. I'm going to remember everyone's name because that's an extreme positive statement that I may not be able to believe. So I'll say cancel. I'm getting better and better at remembering names.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful technique.
So here we can say, what does self-criticism lead to? So when we overly criticize ourselves and reach a level where we don't take good care of ourselves and are not compassionate enough towards ourselves, we go into a lot of self-pity. We start blaming ourselves. We whine too often. We say that we put everything onto luck, not being lucky. Life has not been good to me. we put the control in the outer agency. We are not ready to take the control of our life. For everything, we blame others. Everything becomes too difficult for ourselves. And also, along with blaming others, we do a lot of self-blame. It only leads to self-rejection. Somewhere, we get very stuck. We don't think that problems have solutions. So let's accept life the way it's coming. This is destiny. Life will never be good to me. I'm born to suffer. A lot of these things are said by people. And you say that because things cannot be changed, I'm accepting it. See, accepting things, we tell as psychologists, we say accept and then move on. Because only once you acknowledge the problem will you be in a position to solve it. But these people who self-criticize accept it and don't want to change anything. Obviously, it's going to lead to a lot of anxiety and depression. Now see, in psychological terms, we say that there are a lot of positive emotions and negative emotions. And even some of the negative, healthy emotions are there. Something like getting a little irritated, being a little upset is a healthy negative emotion. But anxiety is something which is disabling. It is demotivated. It leads you to a situation where you lack functionality. So self-criticism leads to lack of functionality and taking on onus and moving on in life. Many people who are self-critical also focus only on themselves. They become pretty selfish, self-contained, and rigid. They're not ready to accept whatever others' points of views are, and they can't forgive others also. So as psychologists, when they come to us, when people come and they're very harsh on themselves, keep criticizing themselves, or they're very depressed or anxious, I often go back into their histories to see somewhere that actually in their childhood and in their adolescent years, they have been very self-critical, less compassionate. They don't take care of themselves. And that is why they are going through such severe anxiety and depression. Okay. So, one of the most important values of emotional immunity building then, besides self-care, self-compassion, considering understanding your self-criticism and overcoming that, is building emotional resilience. A beautiful thing that Nelson Mandela said was, the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Whose life does not have falls? We all have to fall and rise. Life is a cycle which can go up and down and round and round. So there will be rises, there will be falls, and sometimes we will learn from these only. If a life is a plateau and a straight line, we will never learn. Only when the challenges come and we are faced with difficult times, we look for solutions. Otherwise, we are pretty complacent and happy. So that is why these things happen in our life, to bring out the best from ourselves. So let us see, how do we build on our emotional resilience? Before I tell you how to practice building resilience, I want to give you a beautiful example of a rubber band. So if you see a rubber band, you can actually stretch out a rubber band, but each time you leave the rubber band, it comes back. I request everybody to go on the mute mode. Okay. So once we stretch the rubber band, you see that the moment you leave it, it comes back into its own shape. So resilience is like that. Sometimes when we are very distressed and challenging times come, it is the stretch in the rubber band. But the moment the difficult time goes, we bounce back into normalcy. And that's what life's all about. Another thing I read, very beautiful thing when I was discussing this rubber band and resilience related metaphor, is that sometimes when you overstretch a rubber band, it breaks. So why let our life go to a situation where we have breakdown? You must understand that this is my limit, beyond which I can't extend myself. And now it's time to bounce back to normalcy. So I must practice certain things like the ones I'm talking about. So to practice resilience, every time you go through adversities, mistakes and failures, remember that you need to bounce back. You'll have to find ways to bounce back. You will need support, take others' support, take counseling, meet your friends, talk about solutions, think of ways to get back. Don't just feel stretched out. Start doing simple, pointless, mildly challenging tasks to improve your power of resilience. You know, at this time, when we were all in a lockdown, I was that kind of a person who had never done so much of house cleaning and cooking also, because in India, we do have a lot of house help. And cooking was never my forte, you know. So the first week was the toughest. I didn't know where my spices were. I didn't know where my oils were. My maids would do all that for me. So I started doing the tasks little by little, challenging myself to exactly make the food the way I like to eat it and serve it to my family. That was building resilience for myself. Ironing clothes. You know, you can always say, such a small job, let others do it. But you know, when we do these little tasks of folding clothes, telling children to fold their clothes and keep it, to neaten up, to organize your desks, etc., it is only building patience. It is building the power of independence, autonomy, and also decluttering our lives. That builds resilience. Next important thing is practice dealing with change. Change is inevitable. All of you are aware that if nothing changes, change changes. Change is the constant thing that changes. And change will happen. A beautiful world after the COVID gets over will happen for those people who think positively, who all have a growth mindset. If we have a very fixed mindset, you all will feel life is going to be horrible. What is life going to be with such a severe world economy falling down? What will happen with the world not having to move out? We're not going out. We're not socializing. We're not partying. Nothing is on. But mind you, there is going to be some kind of a silver lining to this cloud too. Here we are all together. This is an example on a virtual platform where otherwise I could never have possibly reached out to you all. I always wanted to be, as a psychologist, reaching out to millions of people. And in the last 5 months, I've exactly done that. And that was only possible because the pandemic came in. Otherwise, we always believed in physical trainings. So accept change, deal with it. Practice your disappointments where it's disappointing and it may not be the next time. There may be a lot of expectations we have which are unmet. So often see whether your expectations are realistic or unrealistic. And if they are realistic, then we'll have to move towards actually matching up to them through whatever ways we want to. And like here I'm saying, see, sometimes we may be unable to do it on our own. That is why we have platforms like Teja and Trijog, where we come up with expert speakers to help you understand and learn strategies to deal with your lives. And still, if you feel over a long period of time you're unable to cope with it, then we are sitting here as counselors, all online, to help you and assist you through any difficulties that you all have. And that is why even people like Kalyani and Jayanti have started off a platform, whereas the profession is not absolutely matched to what they were doing. but everybody is thinking towards wellness of human service. How much we all are doing for each other. So we will meet up to a lot of expectations only if we try. So let's practice resilience.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anurith. I think that was amazing. The analogy of the rubber band is really fitting because you need to bounce back, and you do. I like the idea of doing mildly challenging, because sometimes people look at this big mountain of stuff and go, "Oh my God, no, I'm not going there." But little by little, truly, you will get there if you climb small parts of the mountain.
Definitely,
There.
definitely.
So thank you so much for that. Before I throw the floor open to questions, and I think we already have questions, I want to acknowledge a comment that one of the participants has made about their own mantra being that this time is for growth. So it's amazing that you recognize that you need to work on your growth, and it is
Beautiful.
relevant and worthwhile. And what they say in the end, I really like this one, where they say that the growth will never go away and stays with you lifelong. I think we don't recognize that either. Like when we are challenged and we are learning something new, you're in the infancy of the task that you're doing. You always think it's all, I don't know, how is this going to be useful, is it even, am I even going to get there? But it all matters in the end. Every little bit you do, you'll be surprised. Sometimes it just becomes this big thing, and you could meet the next big opportunity of your life. So thank you for sharing that. Jayanti, would you like to ask the question?
Yes. So now the floor is open to questions. But before like while people are typing in their questions, I think earlier we had a question from Gayatri. So I'm going to start with that question. And she asked a very good question about how to not overthink. I think a lot of us would want to know the answer, including me, because I'm a researcher by profession. So I'm hardwired to think a lot. And some of us maybe in professions that require us to think a lot, and therefore we cannot stop doing that after we come back home. So Anurit, Anisha, if you could give us some tips about how to not overthink or how to cope with overthinking.
I think Isha will do a great job in giving this answer because all the clients she deals with are overthinking. I'll take a little bit of a rest to my voice, and I know she knows the answer very well. Okay.
Thank you. But yes, so most of my clients do sort of deal with this or go through this. So, I'd like by telling all of us that we all have a circle of control, wherein there are two circles. The outer circle is where there are things which are beyond our control. Let's say, for example, other people, their thoughts, their words, their actions, their feelings, their choices, their decisions, even larger things like the pandemic happening now, or the climate, these natural calamities that happen. These are all absolutely out of our control, right? And you'd see that most often you feel anxious or angry about the things that you cannot control, versus looking inside in the inner circle of control is what we can do. Our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our efforts, our choices, all of those are within our control. Once we try and look inward as to what is in my control in this situation, is when we'll be more focused on, like ma'am said earlier, problem solution. In the pandemic situation, what is the best that we can do right now is to keep ourselves protected, take all our safety precautions. And then beyond that, unfortunately, if things were to happen, we are not immune from the problems of the world. And if it were so to happen, we would eventually cope. And with that kind of mindset, we bring back the control within ourselves, and that naturally reduces our anxiety, right? Also, some amount of worry, concern about this situation is very natural, very healthy to have. I mean, it would be uh, unnatural if people wouldn't feel concerned in such a situation, right? So, like ma'am earlier explained, there is a healthy negative emotion and an unhealthy negative emotion. The moment you can keep directing your energies, your thoughts towards inwards and what I can do in this situation, you will see that you're in a healthier place. Along with that, anxiety is also largely very physical in nature, right? So practicing certain relaxation techniques, breathing activities, all of these also help you a lot in building that mind body connection, whether it's physical activity, whether it's eating right, whether it's, sleeping right, and practicing these relaxation techniques. These are certain things that will help you in this situation. Ma'am, would you like to add
Yeah,
on
yeah.
something?
So see, another thing about overthinking is, like Isha has very beautifully told you about the strategies which are required, is that we are humans and thinking is going to happen. We have a mind and mind is going to keep on thinking, whether it's thinking on the positive side or the negative side, it will keep on thinking. So whenever you want to stop the train of thinking, what you call overthinking, like you all just use that, even the delete, you said cut
Cancel,
technique, right?
cancel.
Cancel,
Cancel, cancel.
cancel. Like that, you have to get that word stop in your mind and actually tell yourself consciously to stop and go blank for a while. You see, we call this pausing, number one. Number two, the moment you're overthinking, I will be making you all do a little centering of breath technique for building your resilience after this, where the moment you breathe in and breathe out consciously, your mind will immediately go on your breath control rather than your thoughts. So when you see a lot of racing of your thoughts happening, start very consciously, ground yourself wherever you are, sit down for 5 minutes, sip a glass of water very slowly, one sip at a time, become mindful of the situation and breathe in and breathe out, but become conscious of your breathing and go very slow on your breath. It will immediately make you stop the racing in your breath. The third technique is, while meditating, when you overthink, whatever you're thinking, form clouds of the thoughts and let them move away from you. Whenever you think you're thinking very negative or too many thoughts are coming in your mind, you can just close your eyes and think that these are drifting clouds and let them move away till you see a calmer self. Okay?
So to just add on to the cloud drifting technique, many a times we also, humans do have a tendency to get thoughts randomly also, right? Uh, we sort of believe that every thought that we have is the truth, is the fact, when it may not necessarily be so. So, like ma'am said, treating them as moving clouds, passing by clouds, which you don't have to keep focusing your energies or attention into trying to stop them or trying to build stories around them, is what really, really helps in this situation. And of course, being very non-judgmental towards your thought and your own self, as to not asking questions like, why am I getting such thoughts, or what kind of a person I am to get such thoughts. So this basically is something which will help you bring to the present mindfulness, like we've been propagating a lot.
Also, Jayanti, the moment nowadays, so much of talk is going on related to mindfulness. The whole concept of mindfulness has come in because people are found very stressed nowadays. And due to a lot of stress, stress is a manifestation of multitasking. You see, earlier we used to really feel very proud the moment we would multitask. I am good, I can do 10 tasks at the same time. But today, as psychologists, we do not go with the theory of multitasking. You can be sure that you want to do 10 tasks a day, but when you're doing a particular task, just be in the moment and enjoy it. Like somebody just now also wrote that this is the period of growth for us. So we can pause. I tell students also, I tell parents also, let's just pause for a while and not really do something important and very productive. We can take a break. We all are humans, right? And if 6 months of a break happens, so what? Right? So this pause will really help us to relax. And the moment we can relax in life, automatically all our emotions settle down. I have this beautiful video. I can share it. I don't know whether we've shared it through our links right now, where you see this churning going on in a glass. And the moment all those sand particles and glitter settles down, you're in a calm position. Isha, share that with everybody. It
I'll do
really
that,
teaches
ma'am.
you that even when you have so much turmoil, the moment you sit down and relax and come into the moment, enjoy the present moment, automatically life becomes easier for us. I think there are a lot of more questions now.
Yes, there are a few more questions. So Sanket is asking if we can create virtual support groups, and I'm just going to answer yes on behalf of everyone because we're doing that right now here.
Yes, yes.
So it's really great that we can do this online right now. And I think there's another question about the analogy of there's this bit of a discussion about the rubber band analogy again. And I think what Margot was trying to say was that when we stretch the rubber band too much, we may get to a point of expansion, or we may break, So I think that's a bit of that, drawing the balance between becoming resilient and breaking down. So can you touch upon that a little bit?
Yeah. So see, basically just bringing the example of a rubber band was only to understand that just the way we stretch a rubber band and it has that capacity of bouncing back, even we as humans go through stages. People have written stage of plasticity, different stages have been mentioned in the comment section that I was also just seeing. So yes, there are different stages where you can tolerate stress. That is why there have to be signals and red flags to know that now I'm very stretched. And sometimes you may not know that it's happening to you. You may feel that, okay, I can stretch more, but people around us can see the red flags. So even as friends, colleagues, family, we tell the person that I think now is the time you do need help. Or why don't you take a break? So remember, the rubber band shape, if our life is a rubber band, the shape may change. Because as you grow, we do change as humans. So even the shape can change, right? Sometimes we often say, I am not what I was earlier. Some say that for the better and some say that for the worse. I think my sister also is one of the participants here today. I was a very loud, aggressive, outgoing, absolutely highly talkative person. But in my profession, I surely have become much calmer and hyperactive too. So the positive that has happened, I'm fearful, anxious. But in years, having worked on myself, I have made sure that I get rid of those negative things that I have in myself by working. So the rubber band can definitely shape up differently. But it's important to know that till when can it stretch? And if you feel you can't actually know, then you need to take help from others, your support system. That do you feel I am behaving in this manner? Don't take that as criticism. Many times we are told by our friends and family that, oh, I see that you're looking very low to me. You're looking very, very unhappy to me. And we don't acknowledge that. So if the signs are seen by others, most people who come to us for counseling may not be people who've come on their own. They're referred by friends, they're referred by colleagues, they're referred by, right now I'm doing so many corporate webinars and the bosses are referring the employees because they feel that they've got so stretched that now is the time they need help, right? So the example of rubber band mainly was for that. to understand the limit and not let ourselves break up.
Thank you so much, Anurit. I really liked everything that you explained. And I really liked the fact that you said that lots of people actually tell people to go and seek help. I personally think I like to call myself a therapy junkie. And I tell everybody that I think everyone needs help in their lives, right? So why not? So thank you so much for that. I think we are running out of time, and I really want to also do the meditation. So I'm just going to have to put the questions on hold, but definitely we'll be giving you contact information and how to connect with Trijog, so you can reach out to Anurit and Isha and to Trijog afterwards also. So Kalyani, we can now move on to the next bit.
Yes, sure.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Anurit, and thank you, Isha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll move on to the meditation.
Yes.
So if we can
So
play
like
that
I
button.
just said just now, that there is, when we're trying to build resilience, whenever we feel life is very tough on us and we need to take a break, firstly, take a break. Don't think, I even tell my own children when they're very stressed out. I even tell all my colleagues, you can ask Isha, she's sitting over here. If they're too stretched out and stressed out, I said, just take a break. There's nothing more important than your mind and your physical health and mental health. So take a break. But in between, if you do take these breaks of mental toughness, meditation activities, even short 5-minute meditation, you don't need to sit for 20 minutes to 2 hours to meditate to bounce back. To create mental toughness, let's all try to do this activity. Isha will take us through this activity right now. There'll be music playing, and you have to just follow her voice, the instructions that she's giving to all of us. Experience it, and you will feel good.
So we'll be doing a short mental toughness resilience meditation activity. We'll begin by closing our eyes first.
Isha, a little louder. You'll have to be a little louder, okay? Because the music will play.
Start with a centering breath. Breathe in for 6 seconds. Hold it for 2. Breathe out for 7 seconds. Once again, breathe in for 6 seconds. Hold it for 2 seconds. Breathe out for 7 seconds. Recite a personalized identity statement that emphasizes a positive quality and specifies something you want to become in 5 seconds, such as I am confident and passionate, or I am consistently excellent every day as a leader, executive, and mother. I am abundant. Visualize your personal highlight reel for 60 seconds, thinking of 3 things you've done well in the past day. Repeat your identity statement for the next 10 seconds. Let's take another centering breath cycle. Breathe in for 6 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale for 7. Finish with the last round of the centering breath cycle. Breathing in for 6 seconds. Holding for 2. And exhaling for 7. Whenever you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes.
Thank you, Isha. That was really relaxing, and it didn't even feel like that short. It felt like the short time converted into this really long and beautiful pause that we needed. And the breath work, actually, I was this since this morning I was experiencing this mild headache, and just by doing this short relax, I'm already feeling
Yes,
so
it
much better.
really feels good. Yes.
So please feel
So
free to share your comments in the chat box, everyone, if you enjoyed this meditation.
thank you, everybody. And I just want to tell you there was one a question in the chat box. I'll quickly answer that. A lot of children are spending time for recreation on screen, and they want to watch the video, play video games, etc. Screen time is becoming a very major issue right now with parents because school is also online. So it's perfectly fine if they recreate through going on the internet, provided the number of hours are limited. Make sure that they do their study online. There are a lot of ways to recreate otherwise, like playing a lot of games, board games. This time is the time you can have a lot of family games. There are beautiful games. I don't know whether they're available there, like Dobble, Carom, things in which children can indulge in attention concentration games. That is preferable. But an hour of these kind of games beyond the school time is perfectly okay. Try to limit the screen time because it also has not only mental adverse effects mentally, but also physically. It's very strenuous for the eyes. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for your lovely comments. It definitely
Yes, very,
reinforces,
very beautiful, very motivating.
reinforces the point of doing meditation, even if it's just like centering your breath, like Anurit mentioned, just you automatically become conscious of your breath, and that itself is a wonderful experience. Makes you feel alive, definitely. So I'm just going to quickly summarize today's session. So thank you once again, Anurit and Isha. Really, really simple. Some of
Thank you, everybody, for being
Thank
present today.
you.
yes, some of the
Kalyani, before you
yeah,
summarize, while you summarize, I'm just going to put up the link for the feedback form in the chat window for everyone to go for it and give us the feedback. And I'll also be putting it up on the Teja Instagram page to access for the next 1 week or so that people can access it on the Teja Instagram page as well.
Yes, thank you. And so quickly, I'll summarize it before we move on to the treats, and you're going to enjoy the treat, I'm sure. So as Anurit said, understanding our emotions. Sometimes I think it's so we know what emotions are, anger, anxiety, but sometimes this restlessness within you, it's even hard to pinpoint what it is exactly you're feeling. So even to understand the emotions, I think it's good to take a pause when you're experiencing this emotion and try to pinpoint what it is that I'm feeling, why is it that I'm feeling. And when you take out time to recognize your emotion, tap into your network, become conscious of the fact that you need to get some help, need to talk it out. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is more empowering to recognize that you need help and that you need to access the help. And practicing self-care is very important as well, like Anurit mentioned, as physical, emotional, spiritual. And I guess it's good to have a good balance as well, because sometimes if you're constantly focusing on physical, to some extent you could spend some time exercising and grooming yourself and looking good, but the emotional and spiritual are equally important in really grounding us as well. So a good balance is what we need to aspire to do. Self-criticism, we're all victims of this. And the less we are conscious of it, the more we indulge in self-criticism and self-talk. And the activity, the poll, I'm sure helped all of us to really reflect on it. Sometimes the incident itself is pretty good. Like, you've got a job in one of the top 5 companies. So it's a thing to celebrate about. But if the self-talk becomes, oh, so what? There's so many people who do that. Immediately your response changes and you are not doing any favors to yourself. So recognizing your achievement and really rewarding your own self for it. And I think what Anurit mentioned about writing, journaling, I think that really is another thing that I highly recommend, because doing it myself, I get to observe how the thoughts flow. And sometimes even journaling little wins, and in a couple of weeks, when you look back at that tiny win, it actually makes you feel so much better. It makes you feel that you've done something worthwhile. Time just passes, especially in the pandemic, when we're all inside and not being able to do the usual activities. We are constantly thinking of, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough. But when you note those small wins, you have climbed those little parts of the mountain already. And then about emotional resilience and the analogy of the rubber band. So it is good to change. So even if your shape has changed, it is definitely good to change. Recognize those red flags and pay attention to that network and the feedback you receive. Don't take it as criticism. It's an opportunity to act on ourselves. And remember to be that civil engineer who looks at those challenges as something that how can I use my skills and how can I use my experience, or even ask somebody in your network to come up with the best solution to find that route, to find that optimum path where you get from point A to point B. So that's the summary. And then if Jayanti would you like to talk about the handy references?
Yes, if we can have the slide up. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So, of course, we have Trijog's Instagram, which is very beautiful and very impressive. So please follow Trijog on Instagram, connect with them. And there's the Mind Valley, which we're all big fans of anyway. Then there is the Sri Kumar Rao's talk that Kalyani mentioned about at the beginning of the webinar about resilience. He's such a great speaker. He's a person who's on TED without even giving a TED talk. So he's that incredible. And then there's a podcast recommendation from Kiki K. Big fan of Kiki K, Stationary Junkie. Then there are lots of apps on meditation, Calm, Headspace. I've used Headspace in the past, which I thought was actually pretty good. There's apps for yoga, like Daily Yoga and CureFit. The body scan, I think that's a really good thing to do. It's a 3-minute activity, so it's like easy. Then there's progressive muscle relaxation. There's these short YouTube videos that you can watch. If you want to take a picture of this, you can do that. And coloring and doodling pages, it's such a calming activity, right? When you just sit and doodle or sit and color, and it's just putting your attention and mind into these small activities that can really uplift you. So that's great references. And while we were talking, I thought about one really interesting thing, because you spoke about practicing dealing with disappointments. I thought that was so beautiful, and it reminded me of a TED talk of this guy who has done an experiment with rejection. It's called 100 Days of Rejection. So I'll put the link to his TED talk in the chat if anyone wants to look at it. But I thought it was just easy things to get ourselves used to. I think eventually we get conditioned to accepting those things. So I'll just put the link in the chat window. But other than that, thank you so much for attending. The feedback form is in the chat window. And I think there's a link at the end of the feedback. There's a question at the end of the feedback form if you're interested in getting a counseling session from Trijo. So Isha or Anurit, if you want to talk about that. And
Isha can do that. Yeah, Isha, you could do that.
Right. So, time for Trijog treats. Each one of you is going to be receiving a handbook with the webinar content, the references, all of that mentioned in that. And also everyone who's attended the webinar will be eligible to avail a 10% discount on our counseling services. You can log on to trijog.com, click on the book your appointment tab. There'll be a form which drops down, fill in your details, and there's a section which asks you where did you come to know about came to know about Trijog section. Select Teja from that. Once you do that, this form goes to our customer care executive. She will give you a call back, and will also book your appointment at a time that's suitable for you, help you with the discount. Also, like Jayanti mentioned, your feedback does help us serve better. So please, please, please fill the feedback form. We'd really appreciate it.
Thank you, Isha. Please ensure you send us your email address if you want to receive the handbook. It's such a lovely handbook, and it's beautifully presented in terms of the graphics, impeccable. So I highly recommend that you share your email address so we can give you the handbook, and get in touch with Trijog. You have this really lovely offer to avail.
So I think in the feedback form, there's a tab to put in your email addresses, so we can get your email address from there and then send you the handbook.
Thank you, Jayanti. Yes. Thank you once again, Anurit, Isha, and Trijog for your valuable time and amazing, amazing advice, amazing tips, really great insights. It's been such a refreshing, wonderful collaboration, and we're really, really happy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us to this platform. And like-minded people together can spread a lot of happiness. That's what I know. So let's all do it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Anurit. Thank you, Isha.
We'll keep connected.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kalyani. Thanks, Jayanti. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. You can follow us on our Instagram and YouTube channel. And if you want to write to us, please send us an email on this email ID. And like every time, we're going to record this, and this webinar will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, which is also Teja Discover Radiant. So I wholeheartedly thank you. Thanks, everyone.